Oh, definitely about that my hero is found within, that I no longer have to look outside myself for someone to come rescue me or for someone to take me away from this miserable existence, because it doesn't have to be that way. The person I have been looking for my whole life is found in my reflection in the mirror. And that's what I have found that has changed my life, changed the whole trajectory of my world, and allowed things to happen that I never even dreamed were possible in my life.
Digital Audio Health by Cymatrax.
I'd like to welcome to the show Amy Thurman, who is an inspirational speaker and an author. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Hi, Rhonda. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, and I'm excited to learn about your journey, unbelievable courage that you've had. Can you let the audience know a time in your life where everything changed for you?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. It was 10 years ago. I was
Wow.
working at a major university one day, and the very next day, I couldn't even take myself to the restroom. I passed out and landed on my face on the hardwood floor, and the impact sheared my brainstem, caused a traumatic brain injury, and a broken neck that went undetected for 6 months, leaving me disabled and completely incapacitated for nearly a year. And oh my goodness, what I have learned from that experience.
Mm-hmm. Do they know what happened? Did you pass out, blank out? Do they know why that happened?
Yes, it took my doctor 6 months, 6 years to figure out what caused me to pass out in the first
Oh.
place. It's a journey of self advocacy that I just kept pushing and pushing, trying to find that answer. And 6 years later, I finally found a doctor who knew which test to run to confirm that I have POTS, or dysautonomia, which is a dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system, which means that sometimes my blood pressure just bottoms out and I get
Oh.
lightheaded and sometimes pass out. And so
Oh.
that's what happened that day, that I wasn't even aware of that I had that at the time.
Oh my goodness. So take us on the journey. What happened next after you had fallen on the floor like that?
Of course, I was in bed. I could not lift my
Mhm.
head off the bed without intense pain. And I literally could not take myself to the restroom because I couldn't lift my head up. And I was completely incapacitated. I couldn't do anything for myself. My family had to do everything for me. And as you can imagine, I went into a deep, deep, dark place that I would never
Mhm.
wish on anyone.
Mhm.
Because at that time, my self worth came from what I could accomplish and what I could do, and my work at the university. And so here I was, unable to do any of that, much less unable to take care of my children or spend time with them. I mean, I couldn't walk, talk, hear, or see correctly. So it was complete incapacitation. I could barely speak above a whisper. And so I was just tired of becoming the burden of living as what I saw as a burden to my family. And I was in so much pain that I
Mm.
began to pray. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed that I would die because I was not
Oh.
living. I was merely existing. And I knew that I had enough pain medication to make it happen. And I
Mm.
fully intended to do that. And I had this moment of clarity for anyone who has ever been in that, which a lot of people have, in that deep, dark place. You're not thinking clearly. Where it's a muddy place. It's just really foggy. That's the best way I know how to explain it. And then all of a sudden, there was this very clear thought that said to me, "What if you don't have to die? What if you can
Mm.
make a different choice? What if you can try to get better? And if you get better, what if you can use your experience to help other people?" As a former social worker and educator, that motivated me to press pause on my plan and to at least try to get better, to maybe give this a chance and see if maybe if I could get better, maybe I could still help people. I've always been a helper. That's been my life, is helping other people. And maybe I could still do that just in a different way. And so in that moment, I chose to fight to live with the intention of using my story to help other people. And that's what I get to do now.
Beautiful. Were you in the hospital or were you at home during this time?
I was at home. It was 2:30 in the morning and I felt sick. So I got up to take some medicine and ended up passing out and landing on my face on the hardwood floor.
Mm,
And my husband said to me when I was finally able to get his attention because I couldn't lift my head up, he said, "You want me to call the ambulance?" And I said, "No, let's take me back to bed. I'll be just fine." You know, as a woman who is accomplishing all of these things and in charge of so many things at the university, I just said, "No, I just need to go back to bed." The next day, I ended up in the ER. And so it was, which I should have allowed him to call the ambulance, but I didn't in the
mhm.
moment because I didn't want to admit that I needed help and that I was hurt as badly as I was.
Yes. And sometimes when we're in that frame of mind, is I have to keep going, is that we actually don't feel or notice what is hurting. I remember getting up out of bed and having, like, I was walking really odd and realized that I had like a vertigo, but a really
Mm,
bad vertigo. And I almost fell down. And do you know that I had to work? And so I had my husband drive me to where I needed to be to do what I needed to do because I couldn't drive myself. And I think that's our sheer determination as humans. I want to say women, but I'll say humans because there are men that are also very committed to their walk in life and they won't take like a fall or a little bit of dizziness to stop them from doing what they need to do and carrying forward. What's the lesson in that?
oh my goodness, there are so many lessons
So
in
many
that. I think
lessons, yeah.
so many lessons. And I think, first of all, the fact that I allowed myself to learn lessons from it instead of staying on the side of this is miserable. I hate this life. I'm just not going to survive here. I'm not going to make this is not going to turn into anything good. I was able to switch that and shift that mindset into, okay, maybe this there is a purpose in this that I can use to help other people. And what ended up happening is my business is called Polish the Mirror, and it's after this poem by Rumi. I When I chose to fight to live, I knew that I would never be able to get better with the same mindset that I had. I was just focused on what I couldn't do, how I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and I was so negative, and I knew that had to change. But not only did it have to change, I had to replace it with something. So I asked my husband to load up podcasts and audiobooks that I would listen to. And I began listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer and Tony Robbins. And I came across the wisdom of Rumi and the poem that goes like this: Ye who seek God apart, that which you seek, thou art. If you wish to seek the beloved's face, polish the mirror and gaze into that space. And that taught me that every answer I seek can be found within. I was looking outside of myself for everything. My fulfillment, my self worth was found outside of myself. But this poem by Rumi taught me that if I learn to polish the mirror of my life and get to know my soul, my authentic self, then that's where true wisdom is. That's where all of the answers can be found. And so I became familiar with and fell in love with my soul. Everybody's pushing self-love. It should be soul love that we're pushing. I talk a lot about the difference in self-love and soul love because they are very different. And so that's what I was able to learn. And that's why my book is called Finding My Hero Within, because learning to polish the mirror helped me be able to find that knight in shining armor that I was waiting to come rescue me was found in my reflection in the mirror. Had been there the whole time, just waiting for me to catch its gaze. And so that is the main thing that I learned, is that my hero is found within, not in something external.
Beautiful. You know, I've said this on another podcast is, the longest journey you'll ever take is from your head to your heart. Because
I
that's where
love
your
that.
soul, that's where you'll find your soul. That's where you'll find yourself. And fundamentally, I think we mostly believe that we have a soul. And I remember different times over my life where I would ask my soul some things. And the soul would answer, because when you come, they say, as a little child, that's when your answer comes. And as I grew, it wasn't until I matured that I experience the embodiment of my soul. And that's you're present, but you're present because your soul, you're in tune with your soul, that part of you that's invisible, but that part of you that holds your energy. And it's just a wonderful place to be and a wonderful place to find, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because
Yes,
the self is, because everybody's focused on self, and the
yes.
self is where we are or who we are now, and the soul is who we're intended to be, who we can become, all of the potential that lies within us. And it goes untapped because we're so focused on our self-love that we're completely missing this untapped potential that is there inside the soul. So yes, I love it so much.
Well, and a lot of people, just like myself, like you, we don't know really that we have that ability. It's one of those things that you can't really teach. The person really has to find out by discovery. And that's going within, that's reflection. It's a lot of things that one does when it's a whole process to unveil yourself or lift the veil which that keeps this from you. And so, it's really lovely to be in the company of someone who is in touch with their soul because I find that a lot of people are running really quickly from here to there. There's so many appointments that we have, and we don't have time for us. We don't have time for sitting and paying attention to what our loves are, who we are, and the ultimate question, like, why are we here? What is our purpose? And it's easy to run until you get stopped. When you've been sent here for a mission, I think it's the soul's duty to make sure, by hook or by crook, that you live your mission. And so, you have so much courage and there's so much inspiration in your story because lots of times we don't really think that people go through a whole lot to get to who they are, who they have become, or who they are currently on their journey. But the thing is, we're all human beings, right? And we just have different journeys. What are the tender moments that you can remember when you started this evolution of knowing you had a soul and then knowing that it had a purpose that was far bigger than your human body, really?
It's really a tough thing. I say it's simple, but it's not easy.
No.
And laying in that bed, literally 23 hours a day, laying
Mm-hmm.
flat for 23 hours a day for almost a year, lends itself for much introspection. And so you can
Yes.
only imagine all of the emotions that I went through laying in that bed. And so I became very familiar with emotions and what they are and their purpose, and understanding that they are a part of our communication systems. They're not the enemy. And as we grow up, yes, maybe in kindergarten we're taught maybe five different emotions. This is what they look like, and that's pretty much it. Like, this is the face of a person who's happy, this is the face of a person who's angry. But there's so much more to our emotions than
I
that.
know.
And so what I began to learn is that we have to embrace our emotions. We have to be willing to feel them. We're taught to do this. We're taught to stuff them down. We're taught to
Mm-hmm.
fold them nicely and neatly and tuck them down in there so that they will never surface again. When that's not the way to get where we want to be. We have to pretty much open that chasm and allow it to just surface, allow those emotions to serve their purpose. Research shows that emotions, when they are presented to us, will last 90 seconds if we allow them to serve their purpose, and then they dissipate. But if we hold on to them, or if we push them away, if we resist them, or just grab onto them, then they become a hurdle for us to overcome. So it was a lot of learning about these emotions and allowing them to just be what they were and go through all that messy, yucky stuff that I didn't want to face, and allowing it to just be what it was, not try to make it into something it wasn't, but allowing it to just be what it was, and just sit with it and let them dissipate, let them finally dissipate. And I created an emotion frequency chart from
Mm-hmm.
that experience,
Wow.
to help me be able to do that, because it was such an intuitive experience for me in those emotions.
Well, and it's so overwhelming. And because we've not been taught the process until we're in the process, we really don't have a roadmap. And so I'm really glad that you've developed what you've developed because there's no help out there and you don't even know who to talk to. People don't understand. They don't know what you're going through, right? Even when you say you
Yes,
went to that dark place. I mean, that must seem so far away right now. And it was far away right then because the journey back to your real self seemed a long, long piece away, right?
exactly.
When you
Yes,
had those bad
absolutely.
feelings that you didn't want to live anymore. That
Yes.
was way, way far away. You almost probably you wouldn't be able to reach that today.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just learned so much, and I have techniques that I use now that I have developed along the way to help me
Hmm.
stay where I am, on the motion frequency chart at the upper level of it. I was living at the lower stages, which are very low vibrational frequencies, and so life
Yes.
takes on a different meaning there. It's very
Hmm.
depressive and negative and pessimistic. But once I learned the techniques that worked for me, and that's the thing, that the techniques that work for me don't mean that they're going to work for everyone else.
Yeah.
But when I learn the techniques that work for me, I'm able to use them to keep myself at the top of that chart where I'm much more motivated, optimistic, and my outlook is much more positive.
Hmm. And so something that you said that was very interesting there is vibrational frequency. And for some people, this might be a new word for them. And I really like that you defined it as, a lower level of frequency that you were at, and then raising your frequency. And so, talk to the audience how your life changed when you were able to, and when you are able to raise that frequency up to a level. And then, when you raise that frequency up, what starts to happen in your life inside and outside as well?
The difference is staggering,
Yes.
honestly. It is
Beautiful
it is
word.
stag
Yeah.
it
Love
is
that word.
staggering because the basically I'll just kind of start with an explanation of what that
Yeah,
means.
sure.
Everything is energy.
Hmm.
Everything vibrates at a certain vibrational frequency because everything is made up of energy. Even things that we see as solid are made of energy. And so everything has a vibrational frequency, even emotions, even water, even everything has a vibrational frequency. The rainbow, I use this example in my book. The rainbow, and this gives me chills to talk about it. The colors of the rainbow, when you see the rainbow, they are presented in the order of their vibrational frequency. You can go look it up. There are the numbers on the vibrational frequency of those colors. That's the order in which the rainbow always appears. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about frequency, just the energy that makes up everything. And so there are things in our world that vibrate at a lower level frequency and things that vibrate at a much higher level frequency. And so I've taken just 100 different emotions. There are so many more emotions than that, but I've taken just 100 of them and I've put them into 10 different stages based on their vibrational frequency. And so I have, these emotions are in stage 1, these emotions are in stage 7. And knowing, being able to identify the feelings that you're feeling and looking at the chart and saying, okay, this is the stage I'm at right now. So I'm on the lower level, on the lower side of the chart, but I want to move up to stage 7. And so how do I move from, if I'm at stage 4 right now, how do I make my way up to stage 7? So I have to look at the emotions in the upper stages and change my thoughts. It's all about changing our thinking that reflects one of the emotions I want to reach. And that I said the difference is staggering. I will tell you that just in my life, and I was telling Rhonda this earlier, that I literally have not pursued any of the things that have happened in my world. I just a couple of them to throw them out there so that you will know is I'm going to the Emmys to give copies of my book away to A-list celebrities, writers, directors, and producers. That fell in my lap. My face is going to be on a Times Square billboard in January. That fell in my lap. I have signed a contract for an Ivy League speaking tour. That fell in I'm doing a TEDx. Literally all of these things I say fell in my lap because I did not pursue them. They found their way to me. And it's because I've learned to live on a different vibrational frequency where I'm more open to things. I'm attracting the things that are a match for the vibrational frequency where I'm living. That was a long explanation, but I'm very passionate about this, if you can't tell.
Yes, I love it. And the thing is that, one of the things that you said is you changed your thinking. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't think that they can change their thinking. There's a lot of people that throw their power away. And also, there are people who think they don't have power. They don't know they have power. And so, if
Yes.
they don't feel that they have power, and I don't mean that they feel powerless, as they just don't have an understanding of their power. And so, if they don't have an understanding of their power, then raising their vibrational frequency might seem really odd to them. And one of the things how I describe it sometimes is, do you know how you feel on Christmas morning? If you can go back to when you were a child and you just couldn't wait. And that is such at a high level of vibrational frequency. And you're just wishing for that one toy or a doll or whatever it is that you wanted to have. And that is available to us each moment of our lives. And every time we raise ourselves up that way, we dump really good chemicals into our body. And when we're at a lower level of frequency, the chemicals that are happening in our body is not really very good for us. And so I really love your explanation and that you have stages and you've developed these stages. I actually just want you right now is just to tell people the name of your book, and we'll review that again later. But I want the people to know right now, so just in case they have a pen and a piece of paper, they write down the book so that they can go and look at those stages.
Of course, my book is called Finding My Hero Within, A Journey from Incapacitation to Empowerment. And inside the book, I give you the website to go access that chart. And later, I can also give you that website to access it individually as well. It's free on my website. And I'm in the process of developing a journal to go along with it. So you can take the chart and you can use the journal and really make it work for you.
Mhm. Beautiful. Now, Amy, you're talking about a journal. Can you talk to the audience about how you've used a journal and how a journal has affected your life as well?
Oh my goodness, Rhonda. I don't know that you want me to answer this because I love journals. I am a journaler
Yes.
at heart. I have several different journals, honestly.
Hmm.
I have
Good to
I
hear.
have an yeah. I my favorite journal really is my abundance journal.
Hmm.
Anytime something happens to me during the day, like if I look on Amazon and I see that someone bought a book, then I yell out loud, abundance. I
Yeah.
want my body to know that I love that feeling. I love that what's happening and I want more of that. And so not only do I express it physically and yell it audibly, but I write it down in my journal, in my
Hmm.
abundance journal. And so I have this journal filled with all of these abundant things that have happened in my world. And when I start to shift down to the lower end of that chart, I just get that journal out and I just read through it and remind myself of all the abundant things that have happened in my life. I have a gratitude journal, I have a connections journal, I have several different journals because I just love to keep track of things. I feel like it's so important because we're human. It doesn't mean we're perfect. It doesn't mean we live at the top of the chart all the time. We
Yeah.
have days where we're on the lower frequencies. And so we need to have techniques that help us shift back up to the upper end of that. And one of those techniques for me is referring back to my journals and seeing, what has helped me in the past and that can help me now. So yes, I'm an avid journaler.
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's a useful tool because you're able to reflect on your life and reflect on your journey, inspire yourself to continue to move forward. And so when we talk about journals, we're not talking about going out and purchasing, a $30 hardcover book here. We're just talking about going out and buying a spiral notebook, right? Because
Yes.
if you're a true journaler, you would not be able to afford $50 for a journal because people who journal usually journal a few pages. And sometimes, if you have a lot of stuff that you want to get out, you could write a good 20 pages if you really are working on something that you need to sort out and you need to reflect back and read, your experience back to yourself so that you can put it into content. I find that journaling has been the single most effective thing that I've done in my life and continue to do. And I'm really glad that we talked about that, because I find that, sometimes, and I'm just going to speak about women right now, is we don't give ourselves the time and consideration for our life and how important we are as a woman in our lives. We are mothers and grandmothers, and we're teachers, we're mentors, we're all those things because we've had to learn along the way in order for ourselves to grow. And so a journal is a really good thing to keep track of our progress as a human, and also our soul's journey. And I talk about that a lot, our soul's journey. And that's why my podcast is called Courting Your Soul, is because we need to be courting our soul and asking our soul to lead us on a direction. To ask and then listen and then write is also a really good thing to do.
I love that. I do a book study with my book. And one of the things we talked about this week was how I journal right before bed.
Yes.
Because I'm sending that signal to my body, like, I'm putting this out there. I want you to stew on this. I want you to focus on this while I'm sleeping and give me more of this, and know that I appreciate this and the gratitude that comes from what I have written in this journal. And I feel like it helps a lot to do it right before bed, because it does give your body and your brain that time to really process it.
Mm-hmm. And the greats down through the years, I mean, those are some of the techniques that they teach. If you want something solved, take it to your dreams and ask. And how do you feel about this? About, even the Bible says, ask and it shall be given. But we don't ask. But then when we do ask, we do want it immediately. We don't, aren't you listening? This
Right.
is, have I not articulated it the way I'm supposed to? But I find that the deeper you go, you're asking the tougher questions. You know what I mean? You're not asking for something to work out for you anymore. You're asking for deeper things and humanity things as well, right? Which is interesting. When you started to walk in this life, knowing that your soul was your partner, how did that feel to you? How did that feel?
Oh, that's such an interesting question, because it felt so good to me. Like, inside, it felt like I had finally found something that I had been missing my entire life. Like, the dots were starting to connect. But I will say it was a challenge, because the people in my world didn't understand that. They couldn't see what I could see. They couldn't see things from the perspective that I had. And so there was much pushback. I got, much conflict from that. And so while it felt good inside, the dots were connecting, externally, it did cause some conflict. So it's kind of a confusing thing. It can be.
It's confusing. It's lonely, can get lonely at
Yes.
times. There's not a lot of
Yes.
people that you can talk to about these things. Sometimes they say they don't believe in it, and
Yes.
sometimes they don't feel that they're strong enough to know those types of things, like that you have a soul. Lots of people don't believe they have a soul,
That's right.
and so it's a solitary journey. Can you just let the audience know about just a little recap here so that they can understand of how different your life is now compared to the life that you were living, that you were holding on so desperately that you didn't even want to live anymore if you couldn't sort of make your way back to that. And then a miracle happened and you made yourself back to, which is still back to, the true essence of who you really are and the reason that you've come here to this planet at this time.
It's so interesting, to think back, because I had my master's degree and I was on track to get my doctorate, because I wanted to impart more wisdom to people. I wanted to teach them all the things. I'm a teacher at heart. And so
Yes.
that's what I was going to do. That was my plan. And that was completely thwarted. I'm still not able to get my doctorate, because I still can only hold my head up for a few hours at a time. I still have some issues related to those injuries.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that I am able to do things now that there's no way I could have done before. I have been able to just in the past year help so many more people than I ever would have been able to in a classroom or in a social work setting. And so I fully, firmly believe that that experience was given to me as a gift. I do. I now see it as a gift
Mhm.
to be used to help other people, to spread this message of we have power within us. It's there, just waiting to be tapped into. We just don't know how to do that, or we don't know who to look for, or who to guide us through that. But it's people like us, Rhonda, that are given
Mhm.
this as a mission, as a purpose
Yeah.
to help guide other people to be able to experience these things that are hard, that I still don't know how I made it through all of that because it was such a difficult time. But it was given as a gift so that I could use it to spread the message and to spread the word and help other people enlighten their paths as well. And so yes, I
Mhm.
absolutely I love what I do now, and that
Mhm.
I've been able to experience this.
Mhm. Yes, the awakening is a very solitary journey. A lot of women will go into their in their change of life. I remember, and I put this in my book. I wrote this in my book. I went and picked my sister up, and we were driving, and she looked at me and she said, "How come I'm noticing things and feeling things that I've never felt before?" And women question that, like, what's going on? I'm thinking differently. I'm seeing things differently that I'm seeing the depth of things. So what's happening is the veil is starting to lift up a bit. And I said, in menopause, a lot of women will go through that is that the veil starts to lift a little bit. That's why they become great grandmas, fantastic grandmothers, because not great grandmas, but fantastic grandmas is because with that also comes a peace. So if you haven't been thrown into an awakening earlier in your life, you're darn sure that it's going to happen when you go through your change of life. And it's in that change of life where you start waking up and you start softening. There starts to be a grace about you that you didn't see. There's a softness in the face. You change physically, and people will be attracted to you. They want to talk to you. They want to lean in. They want to know more. And sometimes they will want to reach out to you, even just reach to touch you, right? They just want to know what's there. What do you have? I want some of that. You know what I mean?
I
Because,
do.
and yeah, so we're having a really nice conversation. I really like conversations like this. You're listening to Courting Your Soul with Rhonda Grant, whose podcast has been treated with digital audio health by my sponsor, Symatrax. And today I have the wonderful pleasure to be in the company of Amy Thurman, and she's going to let you know how you can reach out to her, and she's going to talk about her book again.
Yes, I'm Amy Thurman, and I am an inspirational speaker, a best-selling author. And I have written compilation books, but also published my very own first solo book called Finding My Hero Within, A Journey from Incapacitation to Empowerment. And that can be found on my website along with it's pretty much a one-stop shop. I love to connect with people on social media. All of those buttons are there. All of my things that I provide, there are some freebies on there for you. I have my motion frequency chart is also there for you for free, and that's can be found at www.getamyshelp.com. That's GETAMYSHELP, and I would love to connect with you.
Thank you. You are an absolute miracle. I remember when I first heard you speak, I just couldn't believe it. I thought, I need to have you on my show. I would love to sit in your company. I find that there are people who go through things that should have killed them, and yet they're still here. And I think that it humbles me when I hear those stories. And I think with the person at Hunt, because I remember my car accident that I walked away without a scratch on me. And I was T-boned at very, very, 60 miles an hour, 90 kilometers an hour. And even the paramedics couldn't believe that there was no blood, nothing, no broken bones. And that to me was a miracle because my soul left my body. And I remember my soul leaving my body, and it transforms you. but we don't recommend these things. We do not recommend these things. We're here to talk about how you can take this journey, and Amy has given you some steps. What extraordinary discovery have you found in your life, Amy?
Oh, definitely about that my hero is found within, that I no longer
Yeah.
have to look outside myself for someone to come rescue me or for someone to take me away from this miserable existence, because it doesn't have to be that way. The
Mm.
person I have been looking for my whole life is found in my reflection in the mirror. And that's what I have found that has changed my life, changed the whole trajectory of my world, and
Mhm.
allowed things to happen that I never even dreamed were possible in my life.
Beautiful. That's just beautiful. I love that. I mean, your words are just touching the depths of my soul. You're so articulate. You know yourself very well. You know where you were, where you've come, and you've turned it into teachings, which is fabulous. I love that. Do you
Thank you so
feel
much, Rhonda.
you're welcome? It's my absolute pleasure. Do you feel you've been called to your journey, crafted it, or a bit of both?
I definitely have been called. It's definitely a calling that I cannot escape. Believe me, I have tried to escape it many times. I remember laying in that bed for 23 hours a day and fighting to get back to the person I was before. But you talked about this earlier, Rhonda. I didn't even like that version of myself, but I was fighting to get her back because it's what was
Mhm.
comfortable when I should have been fighting for this version of myself. I was fighting the wrong battle the whole time. And so when I began to shift to fight for this version of myself, my soul led version, my whole world began to change. And so anytime I tried to pull out of this calling, yeah, it doesn't go well. And so I do definitely consider it a calling and just a path that I'm intended to walk. And I'm just grateful that I am given what I need to be able to fulfill it.
Mhm. It's a beautiful opportunity, and you're doing a fantastic job. And
Oh, thank you.
one of the great things that you've let the audience know is that when you stepped into the trueness and allowed your soul to lead instead of you bossing it around, all these opportunities opened up for you.
Yes.
And sometimes there's so many opportunities that we have to now pick and choose. And it's kind of like you've been given, the keys to the candy store as a little child. And there's so much there that you just have to pick what you feel you're going to resonate the most with, because we can't live long enough to take advantage of all the opportunities that are out there. And so bravo to you that these opportunities have come to you, and they're just extraordinary. I mean, they're bigger than life opportunities. I mean, being on the Time billboard that's bigger than life, right? And
Yes.
is that the billboard that you're on?
Yes, Times
Yes,
Square.
Times
Yes,
Square in
yes.
New York City. Oh my gosh. I
I
mean,
know.
can it get any bigger?
Oh my goodness. I literally can't dream this stuff up, honestly. Like I have a
No.
dream list, but that wasn't even on my list. Like literally these things that are happening
Yeah.
are so far beyond what I have been dreaming of. It's mind blowing. It really is.
It really is. And the thing is, if you don't even have the imagination to dream that up and it happens, you're just like so blown away and you want to go and tell so many people. Like, you have no idea what's just happened. You
It's
know?
almost like people won't believe you, like it's just so mind blowing that people won't
Yeah.
believe me, but it's
Yeah.
really cool.
And it's out of most people's realms. And it would have been out of your realm back before all of this happened and changed your life. So from the time
Absolutely.
you had that fall until now, how many years have went by?
That was 10 years ago in April. So
10
almost
years ago.
exactly. Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so it took 10 years for you to be where you are today. And I just want to put this into perspective to people that are listening, is that the journeys are not immediate. The journeys, it takes a while for you to evolve with your soul, pay attention to your soul instead of ignoring the whispers of intuition to help keep you on the path so you don't go off the path and then try and get back on it. But in a world where everything's now, And I mean, right now, it takes a lot of patience to go on the journey that you went on, doesn't it?
It really does. It really
Yes.
does. A lot of patience and determination.
And
Just really
determination.
have to be determined to know that that's what's meant for you. That's what you're meant to do, and
Hmm.
to just not give up.
And the thing is that you didn't even know what the goal was. You didn't even know where you were headed. You didn't know you were going to be a best-selling author on Times Square and all the events that you're attending and the speaking that you're doing. It's really hard to dream
Absolutely.
those things up and have them on your checklist. This is what I've done. You really have to go into a place that you haven't known about yourself and bring that to the forefront, because we don't want any more accident. We don't need any more accidents. We need to find this and listen to ourselves and our soul's journey before our soul says, listen, you got to pay attention because the next one's not going to be very good for you. And the thing is,
Exactly.
for me, I had many small accidents that I walked away from, car accidents. I didn't cause them. They were always happening to me. One was a air brake from a tractor trailer on a major highway, like 4-lane highway, released from the tractor trailer and started bouncing down the road at me, at my vehicle.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
And I
goodness.
was 3, 4 months pregnant at the time. And so I had these really odd things that happened to me that I remember the next morning getting up and I could feel the coolness of my floor on my feet. And that's what was important to me.
Hmm.
So I went from a big thing of where I was going, driving my vehicle, then all this happening. I couldn't get away from the big brake that was coming down and running into my vehicle because it was a busy freeway. But the thing is that odd things like that, they're freaks, sort of. Those are the things that you pay attention to because there's sort of a little wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And if you don't wake up, these things are going to happen at a higher level, at a bigger level. And since my accident that I had, that I awoken to the point where I wanted to step into my real self, I've never had an accident since, not a one. And I had them all the way along.
Amazing.
And so
Yeah.
I think that these are answers, that this is why, is because we're here, and especially women, because we're going into the age of Aquarius, where women will be taking up their roles and speaking out and being leaders. Big thing is being leaders and being good leaders. And this is our time. And so, women, if you're there and you're at your house and you're raising your babies and all of that, you've got a lot to look forward to. You're doing the most important job right now, but there's a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure meeting you.
Oh my goodness, Rhonda. Thank you so much. This has been such an intriguing conversation. I have loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. My absolute pleasure, Amy. Thank you for listening to Courting Your Soul with Rhonda Grant, whose podcast has been treated with digital audio health by my sponsor, Cymatrax. Theme song for Courting Your Soul is Sun on the Water, composed and performed by John Park Wheeler.